invitation into the world of the unknown. It moves us to change, to grow. It asks us to dream bigger. An idea is better shared. It ignites us, and we make each other bright. We can do great things together.
Hi, and welcome to this week's In Focus on Whitewater Community Television's WGTV Channel 11. I'm Eric, Executive Director of Whitewater Community Television. Thank you very much for joining us for this first In Focus program after our candidate forums. But because the candidate forums are over, does not mean that election season is over. We have not finished that up, so there are some things that we do before we get into our program tonight want to remind you about in terms of when and where you can vote. Absentee voting already started. That began on April 9th at the voter registration office, 301 East Main Street. That will actually continue until May 6th. You can vote there Monday from 8:30 till 5, Tuesday through Friday from 8:30 to 4:30, and there are two Saturdays, this coming Saturday, April 27th, and then on May 4th, where you can vote from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. If you need any information about that, you can contact the Wayne County Voter Registration Office. There's a number on the screen, or for those that are listening just to the audio, that number is 765-973-9226. You can also go to co.wayne.in.us/clerk for information on that. Absentee voting with our vote centers actually begins on April 29th and runs through May 3rd. That's Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. There are 4 locations for being able to vote at the vote centers: First Bank Coleman Center on Salisbury Road, Golay Center in Cambridge City, First English Lutheran Church on National Road East in Richmond, and Hagerstown New Testament Church. Again, reach out to the Wayne County Clerk's office if you need some information. And again, the First Bank Coleman Center will be open for in-person voting on Saturday the 27th and May the 4th. So those are the 2 locations. You can vote at the courthouse on Saturday the 27th and Saturday the 4th, or you can vote at the First Bank Coleman Center from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. on those 2 particular Saturdays. For those who just want to wait and vote on Election Day, you are an Election Day voter, and that's when you feel like voting needs to take place. You can do it Tuesday, May 7th, 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. There are 8 locations, the locations that I mentioned previously: First Bank Coleman Center, Golay Center, First English Lutheran Church, also New Testament Church in Hagerstown, Life Spring North on US 27 North, Centerville Christian Church in Centerville, and First Baptist Church on South A, 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. And then we invite you to join us for our live election night coverage, which is happening on Tuesday, May 7th. We will begin at 6 p.m. Once again, we will be broadcasting live from the lobby of Whitewater Hall on the campus of Indiana University East. Normally, when we do our election night coverage, we have a chance to speak to candidates that were not in contested races, and we also try to pick a topic that we want to talk about a little bit. That night, we're going to talk a little bit about education. There's a lot going on. That week is also commencement week here in our community, as that same night, the IU East Nurses Pinning Ceremony will be taking place in Vivian Auditorium. The next night, Purdue Polytechnic is having their commencement, and then that Saturday, the Ivy Tech commencement is going to take place, and you'll be able to see the Ivy Tech commencement live on Whitewater Community Television's education channel, WETV, channel 20. If you have Comcast cable, we will be bringing that to you beginning at 1:30 on Saturday. That's just some of what's going on, and we'll talk a little bit more about commencement and other things that are happening. But we want to get to our guest who is sitting patiently with us, waiting to go on, nervous as all get out, and I'm not sure why. She's talked to me in the past, just never on the air like this. Amy Fouche, who is chair of the Wayne County 4-H Fair Queens Pageant. Long title.
Yes.
How's that worked out for you through the years?
We've abbreviated.
Okay. I'm curious, Amy, thanks for being here. Really do appreciate the opportunity to talk to you about the 4-H Fair Queens Pageant. We've talked a lot about 4-H on Whitewater Community Television through the years. We have spent weeks at the fair, and we have recorded the Wayne County 4-H Fair Queens Pageant for a number of years.
Yes.
Talk a little bit about your background in 4-H. I've found that a number of people that are involved in these have a background, were 4-Hers. Do
Yes.
you fit that bill also?
I do. I was a 10-year 4-Her. My grandmother was my 4-H club leader along with my aunt. When they decided to give up the club, then I took over that club and was a 4-H leader for 14 years.
What club was that?
It was the Webster Wonder Workers.
Okay,
which
I remember hearing that name through
Yes,
the years.
and I have just inherited that club back. This is my second year being their club leader again, so I've got that club back. I was a director for 2 terms, and then I now serve on the fair committee and have been on the fair committee more years than I can probably remember now. And the Queen Committee is a subcommittee of the fair committee. So
I want to talk a little bit before we get particularly into the Queen's Contest, which is really what we're here to talk about mostly. But talk about 4-H, what it did for you, why as an adult you've come back to it and volunteered as much time as you have, not only with the Queen's Pageant, but as you mentioned, with the Webster Wonder Workers.
right. I mean, the 4-H program is designed to help educate and develop kids in situations that they are, especially now, not getting in schools. I mean, the cooking, the home ec, the building things, the crafts, those types of things are kind of becoming a lost art, so to speak. So we have several kids that come into the program and they only may do it for a year or 2, and then you'll get those diehards that are there for 10 years because my grandma did it and my grandma did it and all of those things. So it's a interesting group of kids that are 4-Hers because of the bonds that they build with each other, especially those livestock kids, because it's not just my animal, but that animal belongs to everybody in the barn. And it's amazing to see them and how some of these young kids act so much older than they are because they have an animal that they have to take care of, and that is their responsibility, and they have to go out and show that animal. So, but because of all of that, there is a misunderstanding that 4-H is only designed for county kids. And that is absolutely not the case. I lived in Richmond my entire 10 years as a 4-Her. I tried to show, but because of allergy reasons, could not show animals.
Okay.
But I became the arts and crafts, the foods, health and safety, all of the different types of projects that, you create things, you make poster boards. It's special. It's like doing a special project in school. It's a healthy, competitive atmosphere because not everybody is going to win the big prize, but there's lots of first places and there's lots of second places, and you get an opportunity to learn from other kids. Most kids are more than happy to exchange how they got to the project that they did, how much time they spent on a project. You're never going to win if you start the night before.
Right.
But if you start at Christmas, you got a better chance.
We have marveled, and I have marveled through the years when I've had a chance to really kind of have a conversation with a lot of the 4-H students through the years, the maturity level that you're talking about, their dedication, how much time they put into it, their understanding of what their animals need and how much love, how much care, and what they need to do.
Yes.
And I mean, I've seen kids so tall,
Yes.
With really big animals, and they work that.
Yes. And there's lots of tears on auction days, especially when they've had that animal since birth and they've cared for it and everything. It's amazing, and our queens are involved in all of that happens out at the livestock barn, and we are very well aware of those little kids with the bigger animals and who is comfortable with what type of animal. So they learn a lot, even though they may not be an animal shower type 4-Her. they learn how to respect that animal by the end of the fair week.
Talk a little bit about what got you involved with the Queen's Contest. Was that something that you did while you were in 4-H?
I did not. I had some family that participated in it, but I was never one to jump out and want to be that type of ambassador for our fair. But being on the fair committee, at the time I was the treasurer, so going and participating at the contest and just watching. And there were just some things that we felt that we could improve on. Had helped judge some other contests, so I was picking up other ideas from other contests, so we thought, let's just give this a shot. So I went on the first year, and after a couple of years, it just slowly transitioned that I became the leader. And
gotta love those slow transitions, don't you?
Yes. So we had made some adjustments at the beginning when I was in there. All we focused on was our queen category. We took that and decided that we were missing an opportunity from our little Mr. and Miss contest that happens the week of the fair that ends at 6 years old. We were missing all of those girls from 6 years old to 16. So we decided that we were going to have our different other age divisions, and that has worked out amazing. Most of the girls that have been in that queen category have started when they were juniors and have stayed through the pageant.
Talk a little bit about what the divisions are that young people can be involved in terms of this particular pageant, because we just saw on the screen truly some of the younger division.
Yes. So our junior division starts 7, 8, and 9-year-olds, and then we have our preteens, which are 10, 11, and 12. Our teen division is 13, 14, and 15, and then our queen division starts at 16 to 20.
The young men are not completely left out of this, though. We
They
call
are
this a
not.
Queen's pageant.
Correct.
But there's something for the young men, too.
Yes, we have had a young gentleman has participated in the Queen Contest a couple of years. He was our junior king, a couple of years ago, and then he came back and was part of our Queen Contest last year. His sash does not say Queen on it; it said King.
Okay.
We have not changed our name to associate the young gentleman in our group. Same way State Fair just came out this year where they changed their name to kind of represent that. They are now the State Fair program instead of State Fair Pageant. Okay. They are anticipating on pins and needles, waiting for that first guy to, grace the stage, and it's probably coming. I mean, there's some growing interest in it just because of what it represents, not necessarily just the crown and sash, which is what we kind of promote with our girls too.
Talk a little bit about what they learn in this, and one of the reasons that we're talking about this is the deadline for entering this year's event is beginning to come up.
Yes.
I mentioned commencement. We are rapidly moving toward the summertime when the fair is going to happen. So talk about what we're looking at in terms of dates first.
So our deadline is May 19th. That is actually our orientation day, so we will take walk-ins and paper applications on that day. The reason we do a deadline is because we have the girls pull their contestant numbers. The last thing we want is someone dropping out that's contestant number 2. But we also are promoting the fact that the sooner you do something, the better it is to plan ahead. Don't wait till the last minute. Okay. There are some situations where people just don't know, hadn't heard, didn't know where to find information. So we do have those deadlines out there. But that also only gives us about 3 weeks to prepare for our contest with that May 19th, because our contest is June 15th. So in that time frame, we are creating bags for every girl. We are hosting 4 workshops where they learn how to do their walking, what's expected for them to wear, practicing interviews, running through the whole evening of what that looks like. And we do 4 because as you said, with graduation, we have soccer, we got volleyball, we got baseball and softball, all these events going on.
There's a lot of active young people in this community.
Absolutely. Most of the time, even out of those 4 practices, we're always missing. So we don't have all the girls until the day of the contest, the one shot walkthrough, and
Wow.
that's it.
Okay.
Yep.
What do they learn from this? Because it is, and I've seen it even watching from the earlier the rehearsal that day until that evening. Talk about what these young people learn in terms of holding themselves and what some business leaders would call the soft skills.
Right. So usually the first thing I always ask the girls at orientation is to look around and see if there's anybody there that they know. There is always at least a handful of girls that don't know somebody because they're from a smaller school or a larger school, and they just don't know. So I always say by the time the Queen Contest gets here, I guarantee you will have a new best friend. Everybody is there to help, so we build that friendship. I always say the little sister, big sister persona, especially the week of the fair. But we're also teaching them, one of the categories that they're all judged in is what they wear. And it's not about what they're wearing, it's how they present themselves as they wear it. You can always tell the outfit that mom's picked out that they hate, or the outfit that they love that mom's like, maybe not. But you can tell the difference in their personality between what they wear. They do ask us on occasion if this is appropriate. We talk about all the time about being age appropriate. Don't wear certain things just because you can. It needs to look good on you because of your age. We talk about makeup. We talk about jewelry, about how to sit, making sure your skirt and dress is long enough, those types of things. Another category that all the girls are judged on is interview skills. So as difficult as it is to sit here and do interviews, we expect the 7-year-olds to also do that. But they do it one-on-one, and they are judged on how they communicate, not necessarily what the answers are. Can they continue talking, or do you have to keep prompting them for information? And a lot of those questions are very simple, like what is your favorite subject in school and why? Who's been your favorite teacher? And then as the girls get older, of course, those questions change. Instead of your favorite teacher, maybe that question, but why have they influenced you the most? So it just keeps on adding. So these young girls that start at juniors and work their way up to that queen category, they are really getting a huge benefit because they keep doing it. And even the ones that don't win, they keep coming back. There is a benefit to what they're getting. And there have been some parents over the years where they're, running other kids, so they're dropping kids off at the door, and we don't see mom until the week of the fair. And they're like, my daughter, she used to be so quiet and so introverted, and now she just talks up a storm. So those, there's been a lot of great stories. Most of the time when we come out at the end of the week, we're all like, oh my gosh, it's just been a crazy week trying to get ready for Queen Contest. And it's just that one story, how we've changed someone's life completely on just giving them the ability to be the queen, just to be a queen and promote the fair. And, the week of the fair, when they're there, we expect them to dress differently than the rest of the fair goers. Most of the time, if they're there to hand out ribbons and sash or trophies, we expect them to be in some kind of more not as casual.
Right.
We want them to stand out for a reason. Of course, it always rains fair week, so we are okay with jeans and cowboy boots on those days, but for the most part, we want those girls to stand out for lots of reasons. Even our young girls...
They're examples at that point. They're
Absolutely.
role models at that point.
Yes. Even the little girls get stopped. Can I get my picture taken with you? My daughter was a junior queen a couple of years ago, and then the queen that followed her seen her at the the fair, and my daughter was handing out things, and she told her mom, the other young lady, "Mom, I could never do that. She is so beautiful. She's so outgoing." Well, Gracie came back the following year, and she won that category. So she got to become what my daughter was. And it's just really great to be able to help teach these girls as they get older, and the queens then are into additional things that they get judged on. They have to do what we used to do, an impromptu question. Again, State Fair changed that. And the queen category, we base our contest off of what State Fair does, for the sole purpose of we don't want there to be any surprises for them when they go to State Fair. So we mirror
Another
what
one
State
of the
Fair.
benefits.
Yes. So so they went to an impromptu word. They are given a word, and they have to, whatever comes to mind, the first thing, whatever that means to them. They also have to do a 1-minute speech. That changed, and it has been a little heartwarming to hear what some of these girls have to say. We used to give them a topic so that the range wasn't so wide, but we've kind of skimmed back on that and just let them speak whatever speaks to them. Okay. They have put us in tears many times over how they perceive the contest, what they get from the contest, getting the encouragement to do things that maybe they wouldn't have normally done. There are 9 of us on the committee, and there isn't one of us that probably hasn't spoken to that one girl that is terrified that you can do this. If we need to be at the end of the floor, and so you're walking here and walking, we'll do that. We will absolutely 100% do that. By the night of the contest, they don't need us there anymore. They have got enough confidence about them to be able to do that. And it's great when those girls that you think they probably won't come back, those are the girls that come back. And it's great. It is.
You're watching In Focus on Whitewater Community Television's WGTV Channel 11. We're spending time with Amy Fouche, who is chair of the Wayne County 4-H Fair Queens Pageant, or it may be changing its name somewhere down the line to match with what's going on at the State Fair. The Queens Pageant is happening. The deadline for providing information or registration again is
May 19th.
And the contest is happening
June 15th.
And that is going to be at Centerville Senior High School again,
Yes.
where it has been for a number of years. Information or the application can be found where?
So we have a Facebook page, Miss Wayne County, can be found on there. We also have a website, and it's much longer. It's Wayne County 4-H Fair Queen. And then you can also contact the Extension office. They have my cell number and my direct email, and we're happy to email them out.
One of the things that someone is going to ask is, what is the financial commitment for a family, generally speaking, into this, into being part of the pageant, into buying whatever clothes they need, that type of thing?
We do have a registration fee. The registration fee does increase the closer to the deadline we get, again, to help with, we want the girls to learn to do sooner the better than later. But it ranges, I think the oldest with the girls in the queen category right now, it's like $40. The younger ones is $10. So that helps pay for crowns, sashes, boxes, flowers, just all the stuff that we need for contest day. As far as like their attire, we tell them don't go out and buy anything new. I'm starting to lose my voice. They are welcome to borrow from each other. They can hand-me-downs, sister, mom, if they can, as long as it is age appropriate. We don't want something that's not. We've had girls hit Goodwill for their suits. We've had them get hand-me-down formal dresses. So it's just a matter of what they want to put into it, but we don't expect them to go, all crazy.
We're a little bit under 4 minutes, so we're close to the end of this. What we haven't asked you to talk about is, what are the responsibilities? If they win this pageant, there's the queen, there's the first alternate, the queen has her court. What are some of the responsibilities that they have?
So we sit down the Tuesday after the contest, and we go through if they are still in 4-H and they are showing livestock. we certainly work around that schedule, but they are not allowed to wear their crown and sash anytime that they are showing a 4-H project because they need to look like every other 4-H'er. Otherwise, when they are what we call on duty, they are handing out ribbons, trophies. Our queen goes to the car show. We help with Kicks 96's Wayne County Idol.
Wayne County Idol, yes.
We are all over the fairgrounds doing different events where they're interacting with other small children. Most of the time you will find them in barns. Most of the time they're in pairs of 2. If there's a third one, it's because they wanted to come along and just have fun for the day, but typically it's always at least in a pair of 2.
Okay. We're under 3 minutes. The time continues to tick by.
Yep,
I told you this
you're
was going to
good.
be really pretty quick.
Yes.
Is there anything that I have not yet asked you about that you want to make sure the community knows, understands about being a 4-H, being part of the Queen's Pageant, the deadlines, anything of that nature that you really want to reiterate?
Well, I will say that our community has been very nice and helpful about offering donations to our queen. Our queen does get a $500 scholarship. If you go to other counties, sometimes they don't have that opportunity. So there is a little bit of financial backing that the girls do get for having that position. Again, once you win that category that you're in, you can't win it again. But we do allow the girls to still come back and participate in their category, knowing that they can't win, just for the experience of it all. But our girls have been out in the community. Our current queen was part of the Hagerstown parade for the eclipse. So we try to be out as much as possible to promote 4-H. I always tell the girls it's not about the crown and sash. It makes you pretty, but it doesn't explain what we're doing. So it's just, it's to draw attention, but that's not what we're all there for.
Real quickly, we're under a minute. You'd mentioned that there are 9 people on your committee.
Yes.
Are you continuing to look for volunteers, need help? And if so, how does, again, someone contact you and become a part of this?
Well, to be on the fair or on the committee, you have to go through certain things through Purdue Extension and background checks and all of these things through Purdue. So our group of 9 isn't just, you can just come and join us and be part of the committee. We have to go through protocol because we are dealing with younger children, underage children. But we definitely can use volunteers the day of the contest. We still have people with issues with parking. We have ticket takers, trash pickup, those types of things. So again, they can just reach out to the extension office and they're happy to give out my number.
All right. Amy Fouche, Chair of the Wayne County 4-H Fair Queens Contest, thank you very much for the work that you've done through the years with the contest and the pageant, for working with Whitewater Community Television as we try to bring that to the community. And thanks for being here with me. I really do appreciate it.
Thank you.
We're going to take a break. We'll be back with Matt Smith from First Bank Richmond and talk some cybersecurity coming up on In Focus on Whitewater Community Television's WGTV, Channel 11.
Richmond Sanitary District curbside service in your neighborhood. Know the dings. Bag trash goes into your green rosy roller. Regular route drivers do not get out of their trucks to pick up bags and items left beside your green rosy roller. If you have larger items that do not fit in your green rosy roller, please call to schedule a special pickup, 765-983-7450. Clean, loose, unbagged recyclables go in your blue Ritchie roller. Plastic bottles and jugs, aluminum and steel cans, glass bottles and jars with lids removed. Newspaper, chipboard, like cereal boxes and magazines, should be placed on top of the blue Ritchie roller type. Corrugated cardboard has the wavy layers. It must be clean, no pizza grease, folded and broken down to slide easily out of the container when picked up to be emptied by the truck. Questions on the curbside containers? Please call Debbie Tevis at 765-983-7456. Richmond Sanitary District. Our goal is to grow.
Know what's below. When planting flowers, a garden, or doing any type of digging on your property, RP&L wants you to call 811 before you dig. Electric, gas, water, sewer, cable lines, and more may be in your yard. Don't take the risk of digging blindly. It's free, only takes a few minutes, and can prevent inconvenient service outages, expensive repair bills, serious injury, or even death. That's why calling 811 before you dig is Indiana law. Know what's below.
Hi, I'm Sherry Harlan, program host for Let's Talk Together. Join us on our next episode where we will discuss mental health awareness. And we will be joined by 2 members of the Reed Health Behavioral Health Team.
Mental health is important because it really talks about it focuses on our emotional, psychological, and social well-being.
Join us Thursday, 8 o'clock, WETV, Channel 20.
Welcome back to In Focus on Whitewater Community Television's WGTV Channel 11. I'm Eric, Executive Director of Whitewater Community Television. Thank you very much for staying with us. I also want to thank First Bank Richmond, who is sponsoring this particular program. And we just spoke with Amy Fouche. They will also be sponsoring some of our coverage of the 4-H Fair Queens pageant, as well as some of our coverage of the Wayne County 4-H Fair as we get to that week. So we appreciate their support with that. I have with me a First Bank Richmond employee, Matt Smith, who is really working to inform the community about fraud and cybersecurity, which is something that really seems to be rampant. As I look at social media, I'm surprised, sometimes shocked, that almost weekly I'm seeing something from a friend who says, don't follow me if you see that I'm asking for friend requests or something. We're already friends. I've been hacked. That I've been hacked thing is coming up a lot more these days. I assume you all are finding that a great deal too.
Yeah, we see that a lot of people are falling victim to scams, from anywhere from financial scams to identity theft scams. Anything that they could be a victim of is coming up.
Matt, thanks for being here. Appreciate it. Provide us a little bit of background for those who may or may not know you, a little bit of background on yourself and how you got into the fraud and cybersecurity area.
Absolutely. So I grew up in Richmond most of my life, moved away for about 6 years to Nevada, became a law enforcement officer in Nevada, decided to move back for family, and was a Richmond police officer for approximately 9 years. Prior to that, prior to leaving Richmond, I worked for First Bank Richmond on the retail side as a branch manager. And the financial crimes aspect of it was always interesting to me. Once I got into law enforcement, I had the opportunity to do that a little bit. Mm-hmm. This position came open with First Bank Richmond, and I've always had that financial crimes idea and interest, so this seemed to be a perfect fit, and to be able to come back to First Bank Richmond and work this type of crime is really good for me.
Talk a little bit about kind of the evolution of what you have seen through the years in financial crime, because we've seen the evolution of social media. It was Facebook. Well, it was even something before Facebook. Mm-hmm. But then Facebook became the big one, and then TikTok and YouTube, and being able for people to easily put information about themselves and their family online, in essence, really to try to help family members away and friends away keep up with them. But those that are always looking to take what you have found it as a way to steal things. How have you seen this evolve?
What I've seen is the more information that people put online about themselves, where they live, where they work, family, who they're married to, who they may be in relationships with, their children, so on and so forth. These bad actors who want to scam people or just commit bad things in general, mm-hmm. will take this information and they'll connect those dots between who are family members, who are not family members, who do they have close relationships with, who do they interact with a lot, and then they will just work out this elaborate plan of who they can contact, who they can't, Maybe they'll try to contact some people by other means, by messenger, through messaging on TikTok, Snapchat, Instagram, anything like that to get these people involved with them and start giving them information. Also, you could see these surveys that come out that talk about where did you grow up, what did you do, and maybe the people that are passing them on don't have nefarious intentions, but the people that are watching those, maybe the people that created them, are using those as research to do bad things with. And they can connect those dots and connect it with the people's information that they've put online. And a lot of people don't think about putting out where they first grew up, where they went to elementary, what their first dog's name was, which is all stuff that you see with identity theft. Things coming up, questions that you're going to ask for authentication when you log into accounts.
Those security questions that they want to know.
Yeah.
So let's talk there. Talk about the type of information that you want to be careful sharing online. And you mentioned a couple of things, but are there a couple of things that really kind of help trigger these people to be able to steal your identity or use that information against you?
Yeah, you never want to put, your maiden name or your parents' maiden name. You never want to, of course, give out any passwords or where particularly you might bank at, that kind of stuff. They can take all that stuff and create these profiles and just start digging into you. You put online that I'm having an issue with my computer, my antivirus is not working so well, or my Microsoft operating system is not working so well, and they might see that and say, oh, well, maybe we could contact them as Microsoft and try to help them. And then it just snowballs into a larger scheme where they can lose their identity. They give them out their social security numbers, driver's license, that kind of stuff.
Does this tend to happen to a particular age group more often than another, or is across the board everybody just getting hit?
We're starting to see it across the board. There hasn't been, historically it's been sometimes the older generations that have been hit. They're a little bit more susceptible, maybe not quite as computer savvy. But as the generations who've grown up with computers grow older, they understand them, they know them. But it's happening across the board from teenagers all the way up through the older generations.
What's prompted First Bank Richmond? Because you can go to the First Bank Richmond website, firstbankrichmond.com/cybersecurity, without really being a customer of First Bank Richmond, and get tips on cybersecurity. Tell me what First Bank Richmond is seeing that they have opened up this type of safety, and I'll call it safety information, to the community at large, whether you are a customer or not.
Yeah, so we're seeing enough with our customers alerting us to things that they've gotten, information that's been sent to them. They'll just let us know if something seems a little odd. In my time at First Bank Richmond, I've seen that it's not just a First Bank Richmond problem. It is a community-wide problem. So in order to better serve our community, we want to get all this information out, and that way our community can combat the fraud and be better protected.
We say fraud, we say cybersecurity, we say identity theft. They kind of all match up a little bit, but what for you, somebody that is professionally involved in this, are there differences in those crimes that you watch out for and that you think people can watch out for?
Yeah, a lot of times when we talk fraud, it's they've had their debit card's been stolen. The debit card number has been stolen, not particularly the physical card, but when that's put into an online shop or something like that, we never quite know what the security parameters are of those sites, and if it's not vetted correctly, or it may seem maybe a little odd, and someone still proceeds, they'll still get sometimes that debit card number compromised. So we think of that as fraud. We think of checks being stolen or intercepted in the mail and washed. And it's not just individuals. It happens to businesses as well. But checks being counterfeited or washed or altered to pay somebody else rather than the intended recipient, those are what we think of as fraud. And we use that term sometimes interchangeably, but a lot of times with ID theft, we're looking at people who have unknowingly given out their social security numbers or unknowingly given out their personally identifying information to someone who has contacted them via social media means or email or even on the phone or by text message as well.
Are there things that, as we divide those things up, and we talked about debit card numbers, credit cards being stolen, talk about a couple of tips that people need to think about in terms of their plastic, how to secure, how to keep safe. I had an IT person once tell me I would never put my credit card number into a website because you're putting the full credit card number plus you're putting that 3-digit security code into a website. And we keep hearing it. A lot of websites for banks and various businesses continue to get hacked. When you think about the plastic, the thing that we use most, and a lot of people keep going, well, we keep going toward a cashless society. What are the first things that people need to think about in how to keep that physical plastic thing safe?
Well, I think first thing is to know that it's a website that you trust and that's verified. Going to a website that you've never seen before, or maybe you've seen it through social media means, and you click through that, and you've never seen it before. Maybe it looks interesting. Maybe the product looks really cool, but then you go on and you put in your card number, you never get the item, and all of a sudden you start seeing these charges come through. So first thing would be to definitely only use sites that you absolutely trust or can verify that are secure websites. And you can do that in various ways through the browser. Other options are using the various digital wallets that are available as far as using like Apple Pay or the Google Wallet. You could use those. A lot of times, especially with Apple, you can have that number changed every time, and it's a digital number that masks your actual card number whenever you pay on these websites, if they take that kind of stuff. So that's one way to keep it safe. The other way is just to not put it into the website and just not use it. Which is rather inconvenient for most people.
I was going to
right?
say, we've gone to as much as we talk about, we want you to shop local, we want you to walk into local businesses. Listen, I've seen the Amazon truck spend hours going through my neighborhood delivering, so we know that people are doing this online.
Right.
So the idea is how to make that experience as safe as possible. And when you say wallets, I know what you're talking about, but not everybody does. Talk about how easy it is to sign up for an Apple Pay or a Google Pay for somebody, and we talked about the various ages of people who may or may not be online savvy. How do they connect with something like that? How easy is it for them to use?
So typically, if you've had your cell phone in there, you've created a user ID with the various service, whether it's Apple or through Google or Android in there. And setting that up is as easy as going into that particular app and following the prompts that are there to add your card number. It verifies with your bank through their that service's money service, and then it's available to use. And a lot of times when you go to use it, if you go to a website that accepts that particular payment method, it gives you that option, and you can just use that rather than typing in your debit card number or credit card number every single time.
What are a couple of other things that you can suggest for people that are fairly easy fixes that might help them stay safe with online shopping. Let's go there specifically because we know that is important. Updating things like maybe making sure your antivirus is up to date, which a lot of people may or may not do, or the use of maybe even VPNs.
Yeah, so VPNs have become much more, I'm not an IT person at all, but the use of VPNs have become much more prevalent in there, very easy to use. That way it masks your IP address, can't trace you back to, typically can't trace you back to your home computer in there. So being able to use those are important. You know, if you have credit cards, you can certainly use those. But I think using anything that you can to protect yourself, you know, especially antivirus, firewalls, that kind of stuff, sometimes they can get rather cumbersome for some people to use. Yeah. But being able to make sure that your information is up to date, your computer information is up to date, you know, your all of your downloads, all that kind of stuff are there, and updates to your operating system certainly should help with that. You're
watching In Focus on Whitewater Community Television's WGTV Channel 11. We're spending time with Matt Smith from First Bank Richmond talking about cybersecurity, fraud, keeping yourself safe online. Matt mentioned that you're seeing more and more this fraud, this stealing of your personal information as well as your money, and finding out ways to be safe online. Again, First Bank Richmond providing information to the community, firstbankrichrmond.com/cybersecurity. Whether you are a customer of First Bank Richmond or not, that is part of their site that you can go to and find information that can help keep you safe. We've talked about the consumer, but businesses also need to think about this on their end. Talk a little bit about how you handle or what you do in terms of some of First Bank Richmond's business customers. What's the type of information that you provide to them that help keep them safe, maybe help keep them from being hacked, or help keep their customers safe?
Yeah, so when it comes to a business, a lot of businesses are still in the habit of writing checks, mailing checks. So sometimes that mail fraud can happen where they will be intercepted and then maybe sent to somewhere else. We offer, and a lot of banks offer for their business customers, is an option for positive pay, which allows the business to send a file saying this is what we're paying, and that's both for the checks that they may send out, and also for the electronic payments, the ACH payments that a lot of businesses do, to be able to say, here is what we're sending out when those come through to be paid, and something seems to not match, maybe a name doesn't match, maybe the amount doesn't match to the file that they've sent, then they can go through and they can decision those and say, no, this is not correct, this is a fraudulent check, and it can get rejected and returned as not paid. So on the financial side, there's a lot of things that they can do. Their electronic or online access can be monitored much more closely with the different logins that can be created under the particular business in there to be able to see the activity, that kind of stuff. And then what we see with businesses, sometimes there are some phishing expeditions that happen, and we're not talking about going out to the reservoir and
that's not FISHING.
Yeah, PHIS, for phishing.
And explain what phishing is. People have heard that term, but may not know completely what that is.
Yeah, so in the phishings, the idea of that is for these bad actors to send this information or send an email and try to get information, maybe acting as maybe an official from the company or someone higher up in the company to someone who is lower. That way they can gain access into the system. These hackers can gain access into the system, and then they can move around in that system and maybe find information that that is not otherwise publicly available in there. So some social engineering ideas with that they can get these people to provide that information. So that's the phishing idea in a nutshell for that. So they can come in and get that information, wreak havoc within the system, whether it's gaining customer information, addresses, emails, phone numbers for a data breach, or they can come in and get the financial information for the bank or for the business.
We talk about being online. A lot of people think computer, sitting at a desktop.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, when we start talking about our phones and our tablets, those are also online.
Mm-hmm.
Are there things that we need to think about when and where we're using these?
Yeah, with cell phones, a lot of them have the capabilities now to mask your IP address as well, so almost like a VPN in there, so it'll change that. They can do that. I would never allow anybody to have access to the phone that you wouldn't otherwise give access to, whether it's somebody physically here or it's somebody that maybe wants to see your screen or share it with those video messaging apps that each carrier might have in there. So you would never want to give anybody any access to that because they may ask you to scroll through your screens. And when they see something that's interesting to them, like a banking app or any type of financial app that may be on your phone, they may ask you to stop. Oh, I think we have an issue with that. And then open it up, they can see your username, typically, maybe have you type in your password, and they're recording everything right there. So they can see everything that goes in, and then if you get into it and they're looking at it while you're sharing it, now they can maybe see how much money you might have in there, what kind of accounts you have, and they may be familiar with that particular app and direct you where to go and things for you to do. So.
Is password a good password?
Never.
Listen, I'm one of those people that I tend to use the same passwords because I don't want to have to remember a password for everything.
Right.
Talk about passwords, their importance, and what people should consider when they are creating passwords.
Yeah. Obviously, you never want to use something that is
1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah, something that's easily guessed. And this is all information that we've all heard for so long.
But a lot of us have ignored it
A lot of us have,
because it gets difficult. If you have 8, 10 websites, like a lot of people, and some even more than that, you're thinking about 8, 10 different passwords, and it's hard enough to remember your phone number sometimes.
Tedious and.
Yes.
So some of the carriers have the option to save your passwords within, like with Apple, with Keychain. Google has their password wallet, that kind of stuff, where it can autofill for you. But using those passwords that are much more difficult to guess, that aren't that have letters, numbers, special characters, capitalization, that kind of stuff is super important. Some even generate their own passwords that are long and very difficult to remember in there. So sometimes that's where that password manager comes in, where it'll autofill it for you, so you don't have to remember all those in there. But certainly having a password that is maybe not your name and date of birth, or your street address or anything like that is super important, because those are easily found.
Do you? I mean, and you mentioned Google and some of those. Yes, we can save this password for you and move it around. But are there certain password app type of things that you think are good or are a good idea for people to use?
Anything that you can find that has that is rated and well known is certainly something that somebody can use. I can't think of any of the names off the top of my head,
right.
but anything that is more well known is typically going to be a more safe option in there.
Okay. We've gone through a number of things, and I know we probably have not even scratched the surface
Oh, no.
of what people need to be aware of, how they need to keep themselves safe. Don't put your pets' names out online.
Right.
I mean, there are certain things we haven't touched on that I'd like to have you back,
Yeah.
and we can get very specific about some things, again, because this, again, like I mentioned, just in friends that I've seen online that have gotten hacked, that have had their credit card stolen, things of that nature. I think that we're seeing this a lot more. But before we go, are there one or two things that you really want our audience to think about, even whether we've mentioned it or not, or maybe I haven't asked you about it, that a couple of nuggets that you really want to leave our audience with to even help them in the coming week be safer as they do their business online?
Some of the biggest things are any unsolicited calls or messages or texts that you may get regarding your finances or any of your banking information, anything, any PayPal invoices, anything that you may get, or anything that comes through in social media saying that we think you have an issue here, or your computer is infected, is all things that are red flags for scams, and the best thing to do is to not interact with those at all.
Don't ignore those messages that come up from certain businesses that say, we will never ask you for your password or
Right.
that information. Think about those, look at those, remember those, and remember that when you're doing things online. There
Yeah.
are certain things that certain companies will just never ask you for.
They'll never ask any of that stuff for you.
All right.
So.
Matt Smith with First Bank Richmond, we are going to have you back because this is something that people are dealing with truly on a daily basis. And
Yes.
whether it is their local computer or having gotten their information put out on the dark web because a business that they interacted with got hacked, we're all vulnerable right now.
Yes, we are.
All right. Appreciate the time.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Before we get out this evening, want to remind you of a couple of things that, once again, talking about this is still election season for us, and even though we have finished our In Focus candidate forums, which you can find on our Facebook page as well as on our YouTube page, it is voting that's going on. So in-person absentee voting started on April 9th. It continues through May 6th, Monday from 8:30 to 5 p.m., Tuesday through Friday, 8:30 to 4:30 p.m., Saturday, April 27th, and May 4th, 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. You can do all of that voting at the Wayne County Voter Registration Office in the courtroom. Absentee voting with the vote centers continues in person April 29th through May 3rd, Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. First Bank Coleman Center, Gole Center, First English Lutheran Church, Hagerstown New Testament Church, and don't forget, once again, those two Saturdays, April 27th and May 4th, 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. And then there is Election Day on May 7th, First Bank Coleman Center, First English Lutheran Church, Gole Center, New Testament Church, Life Spring North, Centerville Christian, Mount Olive Baptist Church, and First Baptist Church. And join us on election night at 6 p.m. for our election special. We will be live in the lobby of Whitewater Hall on the campus of Indiana University East. Thanks for watching this week's In Focus on Whitewater Community Television's WGTV Channel 11. As always, I wish you well.